Hey, welcome back to the Chiron Intensive. I am Kiera.
And I'm Zeatha. The Chiron Intensive is a space where we dive deep into healing, inspired by Chiron, the wounded healer. This podcast explores how our struggles can become our strength. It's about real talk, real growth, and creating community for young adults who deserve to thrive.
Over here, we do not expect you to have positive days all the time and at every moment.
It is very natural to have highs and lows, but it is not natural to force yourself or others to feel or be positive.
In this episode, we are getting down to the difference between self compassion and toxic positivity.
Alrighty, so let's get into the icebreaker, our usual. I wanted to start off with asking you, Kiara, what was your first encounter with toxic positivity, if you remember?
So, I am a New Yorker who migrated. Is that correct? Yes, I migrated down to the South. And that was that probably was not my first encounter with toxic positivity. That was just my first, like, no, thank you type of, moment. Because down there, people will be nasty, nice to you, nice, nasty.
Mm-hmm,
Does that make sense? Where
mm-hmm,
they will literally smile in your face and say, "Have a great day." Right. And they are like the nastiest people you'll probably ever meet, or like they're talking about you behind your back as soon as you leave the room, or you can just,
mm-hmm.
feel the vibe. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
like the type of people where you can, they have a bright smile on their face, but then they are like, as soon as you exit the room, it's going to be buzzing. You get what I'm saying?
Oh,
So I think that was probably not my first encounter with toxic positivity, but that was my first where I started to be like, you know? What
it
about
just
you?
feels so weird. It's just like it just feels like ugh. Like whenever I just experience it, just be like, get it off me. And
It's
it's
so
because
phony.
it is,
And
and
I just
it's
want to make it clear. I'm sorry. I just want to make it very clear. I don't think all Southerners are nice, nasty, or nasty, nice, whatever the word is. I don't think that. I don't think that. I'm just saying my encounter with a group of people in the South has been that. I'm not saying every single Southerner is that way. Don't come for me.
no, and it can and it you know how like there's certain sayings that people in the South like naturally say, and then other times when
Yes,
it's
like
just like,
bless your heart,
yeah, I'd be
which
like,
is technically
dang.
saying that you're dumb. Like if somebody says bless your heart, they're saying, girl, you you smarter than that, right?
Right, right. Oh my goodness.
Bless
And
your heart.
bless your heart. And there's another one like, girl, you better than me. Or oh no, 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 no. Dang, what was it? It was oh my goodness. It's a
Is it better
version
you
of
than me?
not better you than me, but it's the one where basically what they're saying is it's 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 similar to I won't yuck your yum is a little bit more, it's not that toxic. That's like, okay, you're just saying I'm fine with your whatever, but I won't yuck your yum. But
I
there's
never
another
heard of that
phrase.
before.
It'll come to me because it was kind of like it'll come back. I swear it will, and I'm manifesting it. It will come back, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember the phrase. But and it's something that I used to hear all the time, and now I don't know why all of a sudden I forgot it. But I it's hard to remember my very first encounter with toxic positivity. I feel like it all came out in different ways, and because like I got a little bit of a touch of the tism, I never really realized what the person was saying until like a little bit after. But I
Oh
think like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I just be like, what did they mean by that? Oh, and I'm back at home recounting everything that happened throughout my whole day. And I'm like, wow, that wasn't helpful. Or you didn't have to say that. Like you could have just said nothing. But I think like maybe my first encounter, it had to have been with my dad. And it wasn't just a good luck thing, because that was one of them for sure. His good luck. Like that man loved saying that. But I think it was maybe when I think it was, it's so funny because I don't want to say it's my first encounter because this is my sister's story, but my sister one day came out saying she was getting bullied, and she told my parents for the first time, and we were like telling my mom and my dad, like, yeah, she says she's getting bullied. And my mom, she said something along the line, and I'm not quoting her verbatim, but she was basically saying the something along the lines of like, like not suck it up, but more like the people pleasing version of suck it up. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I was just telling my mom, like, Mom, you ain't gonna tell her to hit the kid back. And I'm not condoning hitting people back. I'm not.
Yeah.
But when you come from, my family is more of like the toxic positive or the people pleasing, like amicable, try to force yourself to be amicable with everyone. So when I'd have friends who'd be like, yeah, my mom told her to hit her back, and then they're like they move on, right? They move on. It was kind of like you had to stuck with the turmoil of like constantly being picked on. And that was my sister's case. And they basically was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's not actually happening. You're just complaining. Like, stop complaining. You're okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, my sister is literally about to bust down crying. She's not okay. And that
Yeah.
was toxically positive because
I
I
always
would have taken
tell,
that
oh,
better than,
hmm, hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, you're all good. I was going on a tangent, and then I was like, yeah, I need to slow down.
I always tell people if they hit you first, you have every right to defend yourself. Because
Right.
once you are hit, that is then you're in danger, correct?
Yep.
You need to
Self-defense.
defend yourself.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Yep.
I'm just saying. Um, but yeah, I think we do need to take bullying more seriously than we do. I think now over the years, it is coming to light for some people that it is needing to be taken more seriously. Um, but bullying is very, very harmful. So you have to listen to your children when they are telling you that they are being bullied, they're being
Right.
called names, they're being put down, especially in a school where they're supposed to be protected, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like anything of that nature, like trying to appease or undermine. Like my mom said something pretty much like toxically trying to be toxically. It was a little passive too. It was toxically positive and very passive. My sister didn't feel like she was heard, and then it felt like she was kind of forced to just suck it up, and she's to change how she was viewing it. And it was kind of like, no, that this girl's getting bullied. She's not her very vocal happy self. She's not her a good version of what we usually see on her, like a good day. She's not having a good time, and it was a consistent problem. So
Yep.
then eventually I had to, help her out. I mean, I didn't put my hands on nobody, but basically because I wasn't there with her at school, because she was in elementary, I was in middle school. I just basically just try to be there for her and just try to up her confidence and stuff. But it was not a good time for me because I was just kind of like watching that happen to my sister. And she's a much more extroverted kid. I was more introverted. I stayed away from certain people. That's why I never really kind of necessarily got bullied. I've had
Yeah.
moments where somebody did bully me, but I kind of just like I was able to just separate myself. I was very good at dodging and diving and ducking. Never got in a fight. But when I was just seeing my sister go through it, and I was just seeing how my parents wasn't helping, and she just needed somebody to advocate for her, and I was like, dang, like I can't do it. And it was very passive. Yeah.
Yeah. I um I I've noticed that bullies who are unchecked grow up to be bullies. And there are many of
Mhm.
them. There are many of them. They're in companies, they're usually in leadership positions.
Mhm.
Um
Nurses.
and people who have power over another person, right?
Mhm.
And that is very dangerous. So the moment you allow a child to be bullied is unchecking a bully at the same time. So
Right.
that bully is now growing up to have power over other people and bully them even more.
Exactly.
Because bullies who go unchecked, they grow up to cause harm,
Mm-hmm.
just like they're doing in grade school or middle school or high school.
Yep. It goes unchecked and then it becomes permeated into their psyche as a human being. You know how they say, once whatever mindset you had, what's that phrase? It's like whatever mindset that you had and nurtured up until like your 20s is the one you're stuck with for the rest of your life. I heard of something like that. I don't know if I'm quoting it correct, but yeah, it basically is just saying anything that you had unchecked, not work, it will become a thing for the oof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes bullies are being bullied at home,
right.
right? Sometimes bullies are actively mirroring the behavior that they have experienced. So sometimes, again, unchecking a bully is, you're possibly, not addressing abuse that bully may be enduring at home or from somebody in their life.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, bullies need to be checked,
Yep.
period.
Period.
But if there was someone, fictional or non-fictional, who emulated compassion, completely different from what we're talking about, but who emulated compassion, who would it be for you?
Okay, for me, right? When I so have you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I couldn't get into the Avatar series. Number one, I don't have the attention span to sit there for 3 or 4 hours. I'm
What?
sorry, I
No, not the
don't.
movie, not the movie with the blue people, the one with the
Oh, I'm sorry.
airbenders.
What's that one called?
I'm sorry. I had to
I'm
laugh.
sorry. What's it called?
And it's so funny because I only watched that movie like one time, and I don't even think I watched the whole thing. But I'm
Is it
talking,
called Avatar?
well, they make sure the one that you're talking about is just called Avatar or the Avatar. But the show I'm talking about, they make sure to call it the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like you have to
Okay,
add
okay,
the
okay,
last
okay.
Airbender because
I
people.
think my sister tried to put me onto it, and I do have to go. Is this anime?
It does follow an anime style. I don't know if it's considered
Okay,
anime, but
okay,
it is
okay.
anime style. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
my sister tried to put me onto it, and I never got around to it, but I think I will because I told you I love animation and stuff like that. I just couldn't. If that other one is called Avatar, it's a no for me. Is it called
It is called Avatar. I think it's just called Avatar. And then
I was like 3 hours.
yeah, the
Y'all
film
good.
franchise is just called Avatar. And then if they ever have any other Avatar movie, they'd be like Avatar or
Nah, I'm
Avatar Fire and
good.
Ash.
I'm good. I'm good on that. No offense. Just not my type of movie, you know?
No, I got you. So with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I feel like you would really like it. I mean, I love it. Like 10 out of 10 hands down. It's just such a good
Okay.
series.
Okay, I got to get
Um,
into it.
I highly recommend it. And also, I don't know if it's not it. I remember watching it as young as 5 years old or maybe 6. I was really young. So it makes me feel like if y'all had like the 90s shows, I feel like I had my 2000s, right? And basically,
Mhm.
I feel like Aang is the main protagonist in the story, right? Because he's the last airbender, and he emulated compassion to me because there's gonna be moments in the series where um he has a heart, right? Like he shows heart to people who are enemies, to people who are not quite as enemies. And I feel like oh my gosh, there's also other characters, but I'm just gonna say Aang. And I feel like it kind of ties back to the whole definition of like compassion, some of the things that I notice his character does, because you don't necessarily have to make excuses or be passive. Like in his character, when he makes certain choices, especially when he overcomes his challenges and he shows himself compassion, I really feel like there's some like that through that character, there's some like life lessons because it's like he has a huge responsibility. He's the only airbender, and the airbender means he can fire bend. I mean, he can bend air as is one of his powers. He can fire bend, he can water bend, and he could earth bend, which is like using like earth material. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I would love this. I love it already.
Yes.
Yes, because I'm into it. I'm into like, that type of stuff. Magic. Like, yes, I love it.
Yes, it's really good. Like, yeah, and I just feel like him growing as even because he basically is I think his character is like 13, 14. So it's just like you see this young boy like taking a huge responsibility and showing more heart and strength and constraint, and also learning through his shortcomings. And there's all these other characters who probably had more training, like they lived longer lives because he was frozen in time at some point. Like, and I just feel like, yeah, that's a character that I think is like compassion if anybody wanted to model that.
Yes, I have to get into it. And I do love binge watching stuff, so that's awesome that it's a series.
Yes.
So I think for me is definitely Mirabel from Encanto.
Oh yeah. I was like, who's that?
Oh my gosh, when I went to see that
Encanto,
movie,
yeah.
I saw that movie when it first came out and I was in the movie theater bawling. Like bawling. And my kids are like, "Mom, what's wrong?" I'm like bawling because I am she and she is me, right? And she possesses so much empathy regardless of how people are treating her. And throughout the movie, I'm like seeing her growing anger, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she is me. But she possesses so much empathy and tolerance and compassion, and she just has a deep understanding of her family dynamics, including the intergenerational trauma. And she's
Right.
able to forgive after learning her grandmother's story and understanding why she is that way. I thought it was such a good, that's one of my favorite movies, 10 out of 10. And I hope they come out with another one.
Oh man, I'd be there to watch it because I only watched Encanto once, but it's been a while since I watched it. So I was like, oh wait, yeah, Mirabelle's the main protagonist, and
Yes.
I remember she was the one without the abilities, so she
Yeah.
was
Well,
navigating.
she actually did have abilities, but they were too like the abilities that the other family members had. And I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm like, wait, continue.
The other abilities were more visible, but she did have powers. They were
Oh.
just not so visible.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to actually see. She was a seer. She was a
Wow.
seer, but it wasn't as visible, and it didn't show up until she connected with Bruno. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't show up. Remember, Bruno was the cast. He was cast away.
Right. He was
Yeah,
estranged, and we
he was
don't
the
talk
black sheep.
about Bruno.
Yeah, he was the black, and she was also a black sheep because she didn't have a visible gift that the family could brag about, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. That is beautifully said.
Yes, but I'm so sorry. What were you saying? I have to
Oh no,
stop.
like whatever I was saying, I think I was pretty much finishing the point. You know, I have a habit of kind of like yip yapping, like so you're very good at pulling me in. So I was like, I was like, wait, did I had any other point? I'm like, it was the same thing.
Center. I do it to myself as well when I'm talking to people. I'm like, hold on, you don't need to know this. Like if I start
Right.
oversharing, I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know you like that.
Center.
Center. But I do just want to get into it. I think that self-compassion means extending compassion on over to yourself, because you are kind and supportive to yourself as if you are a good friend. If you take care of yourself and understand yourself and have patience with yourself, and mistakes can be viewed as learning opportunities, right?
Right. Right. I feel like the beautiful thing about self-compassion is like you don't make excuses for yourself, right? You're not
Yeah.
enabling yourself, but you're empowering yourself. And I think that's like, much different from like toxic positivity, because toxic positivity, it doesn't necessarily empower you, right? And on the other hand, it like you're excessively using it with the expectation that every day and every moment can just be dismissed by just sprinkling that positivity, when in reality you're feeling suppressed instead of empowered, and then you're not allowed to be the human being with your like natural ups and downs. um and I feel like this is a good topic for our podcast also, because it was like, for example, like one of my like issues, just because of, and that could have been my first encounter with toxic positivity, like being told to smile when I was just not having the greatest day, and I wasn't interacting with nobody, I was just to myself. It's like, smile, and I'm like, and then now it's kind of like ingrained to me to force myself to, even
Yeah.
if like I'm neutral, because sometimes my neutral face is like, my relaxed face is like, some people might be like, smile, where's that famous smile? And I know I have a beautiful smile, thank you, but it's kind of like now my face hurt because I force myself to smile these days.
Yeah. I realize when I am not smiling, I can be very intimidating to people. I don't know, I just have this energy about me where, especially people who are, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form, but especially people who are not of color, find me to be very intimidating if I'm not giddy and smiling in their face.
Yep, that's what has happened to me before. I've even had somebody complain
Yeah.
to like management, and I'm just like, no, I'm okay. I just was smiling and I wasn't being rude. Oh, but
Yeah,
what? And I'm like, and then
exactly.
now the pressure's on because now I got to perform, and it feels like that. It's also like toxic positivity is like a form of performance, like a
It
performance
is.
that you did not ask to be a participant in. You are not having fun with it. You're not getting paid for it. Because one of my biggest things is, are you paying me to perform? No, it just makes
To
me
be an
feel
actress.
good.
Am I an actress now? That's how I
Right?
felt at so many of my jobs. I felt like a little actress. And it's like, come on now. That's why I didn't last long in certain positions, because I did not sign up to be on whatever show this is,
Right,
you know?
right. And the way I view it sometimes is, are you paying me actor money? Because
Exactly.
the folks that is in Busch Gardens, acting in Busch Gardens, they get paid. And I mean, they get paid so much so that they have to join a union. And I'm like, are we in a union?
Do I
Are we
need
in a
do you
union?
need me to have a talk with my agent? What are we doing?
So, but it's like, yeah, like sometimes it's just be like, dang it, in order to survive here, I have to put on a performance. And it sucks, like if you have to like do that at work and you're not having the best day, and you know how to treat people, right? You could treat people still with respect, but it's with no smile on your face. It's like the expectation is put it on because it makes people uncomfortable, right? Like toxic
Exactly.
positivity is about making other people feel comfortable when you're going through a storm. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's it's a little bit unfair because I know we're social animals, but like also I feel like I feel like on the other hand, compassion lets you navigate through that, allow you to be human, and then not put all that unnecessary suppression on you on top of that.
Yeah. But you also don't want to spread misery as well, right?
Right.
So for me, if I am like having a terrible day, I try my best to stay by myself. I stay home, I stay in my car. If I have a day of errands, I try to make it as contactless as possible because I don't want to spread misery. If I know I don't feel like talking, I'm not answering my phone. You can text me, I will get back to you,
Right.
right? I don't want to spread misery. I really don't, because there are genuinely people who hate life and they want other people to be miserable as well. I remember when I was younger and I was just giggling and laughing, and this woman is like, "Stop that giggling." And I was
Golly.
like, girl, I'm sorry for
Dang.
being happy.
Goodness gracious. Like, what's
I
wrong
won't
with
be happy in your presence again.
I'm like, what? What?
So yeah, we do need a healthy balance, because there is, the toxic positivity, but there's
Right,
also being considerate of your energy and the
right,
energy that you're spreading to others.
right. That's true. That's true. Because then if you're wobbling in misery and then you're forcing people to partake in your misery, that's also a problem. That is also a problem.
Exactly. Because unfortunately, and I say this, I just spoke about I just spoke about the South. I'm going to talk about New York for a bit. There are many, there are many people in New York who are freaking miserable, and they know that. And I spoke about this in another episode where I said some people are unable to leave their environment, right? Some people are unable to travel, they're unable to move, so they feel stuck. But there are just genuinely some people who take their misery out on others. And
Mhm.
usually they are in front facing positions. And I have an
Oh, so like
issue.
receptionists and stuff?
Receptionists, store
Mhm.
clerks, um, front desk at a hotel, things like this. These are not jobs for you. If you are not happy in life, you need a job where there is minimal contact with other people.
Right. Right. If it's like not a good time for your life, either find a way to take a break from it or pivot, 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 pivot.
Yeah, and I do understand the need for money and taking a position for money. But what I do, if I take that position for money, I'm going to be applying while I'm at, you know what I mean? I'm going to be trying
Yep.
to not stay there too long because
Yep.
if I know I can't be in front of people all day long, I'm not going to stay in a position like that, you know?
Right.
I know for me in general, as I said, I protect my energy. I cannot be in a front facing position where I am constantly talking to people. That is draining.
It can get very draining because that's pretty much what I do. It can get very draining. It can get, and then from I used to just be like, oh, could I be able to handle it? And I realized I can as long as I feel like there's a greater good because that will always like surpass like all of that, especially is just as long as I have breaks in between. Um,
Yes.
but
Please take your
yes,
breaks.
that is true. It can get very draining, and especially if like you're doing this thing, you're like, despite what's going on, like you're treating people with like kindness and decency and even like making sure like I'm always trying to keep in check of like if I remember special things about like patients when I'm working. um Over time it's just kind of like if you feel like it's not being reciprocated or there's just too many like miserable people back to back, it starts to rub off on me a little bit and I just be like, dang,
Oh,
now the rest of y'all I'm gonna be neutral with. I'm not gonna be mean, I'm not, but
yeah.
I'm gonna be neutral because I'm tired. But then it's just like, all right, girl, I love your necklace. That's so cute. And then it's back to
Yeah.
regular me because it's kind of like, like especially like in somewhere where I'm working, like people come in scared. So but yeah, it's like if the wrong person is in there, especially when I heard so many stories about how many wrong people was at the job before me and how there was just like either it felt like they, patients would feel like um like somebody was being a burden to them. And I'm like thinking, well, you're not a burden because, I work here. And it's just like, you have nothing to do with what I
Yeah.
got going on. But yeah, if wrong, not the right person for the job, it will, not only will it drain, because I feel like in general it kind of is, but not only will it drain you, it's just kind of like you'll show more and more how you're not, it's just not for you. Like if you're not up to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And you also need to be careful about being in a position where you require empathy and you are in a job where you have to, turn that on all the time. And
You're
you
right.
know that this is not a job for you. For example, social work includes, let's say a person who is experiencing domestic violence. You are contacting them and you're on the phone with somebody's like, yeah, okay, so what's going on? How long has that been going on? Oh, nobody wants to get
Nobody
help
wants
from somebody
that.
who sounds like that.
Right. Right. And it's just like, and thinking about like, okay, right, like the person who's the monotone, like uninterested, unempathetic social worker, like let's say like maybe they had to deal with stuff at home, instead of them saying, well, I have to this and this and that, like I have to perform or anything toxically positive, right? Instead of that, well, they can acknowledge that they're not having the best day, but also they can acknowledge that the other person also needs their current best self, the best that they can be, so that they can interact with the person that needs help or take a break and put it on another social worker to handle it for the day.
Yeah, something, because too many times have I had to hear or be a listening ear for someone in need who is being treated with a brick wall, if that makes sense, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I also, and I do want to make it clear, because I said New York and I said the South. I want to make it very clear there are toxic positive people everywhere and there are miserable people everywhere. So trust and
Yeah.
believe, I have experienced it everywhere, both ways. So I want to make that clear. Don't come for me. But at the same time, it's like, know what works for you and know what does not, because you could be the point of contact for someone who is in desperate need of a warm listening ear, you
Right.
know? So just be mindful of the positions that you are signing up for, or and also for the people hiring, be mindful of the people that you're hiring.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, you know?
Mm-hmm. And you know, this what you just said also could apply just even for like on the a family level, familial or friendship level, because I hate to say it because it's kind of like um I hate to say it, but like I've had moments with friends where I just needed a moment of compassion, and instead it was kind of like whatever they had going on, I guess, you know, in the moment, maybe they were tired of hearing what I had going on, or maybe it sounded like something similar to what they heard somebody go on, and instead they compared it. And instead of like a moment of compassion and allowing me to feel at least heard in that negative moment of like feeling negative about myself and family members, it was just kind of like oh, okay, well, you know your parents your parents did what they fed you, they gave you a house to live, and it'll be like, huh.
Yeah, I didn't ask to be here. I'm going to keep on saying that. No child asks to be here. So you doing the bare minimum is you're not going to get a round of applause.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And that's also a form of toxic positivity, because it's kind of like, yeah, they fed me, yeah, I had a place to live, but maybe he shouldn't have called me a pig. Oh, you got called a pig before too? Well, maybe you shouldn't have been called one too either. But right now we're talking about that you just did that yesterday and you're bringing up something that happened to you. Like, it's just toxic positivity doesn't help anybody.
It really doesn't. And you know, you can either impose toxic positivity on yourself or other people. Um, or someone else could be really, really toxically positive to you. Life isn't always supposed to be positive, and that is okay. That, you know, this is a part of our human experience. But a more healthier approach to life is that self-compassion, which is also, it requires self-awareness and knowing what works for you and what does not. I am
Mm-hmm.
very self-aware of my energy and what is going to deplete my energy, what is going to bring me energy, jobs that excite me and jobs that are simply just for a paycheck, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to be very mindful, very self-aware of the decisions that we're making in life. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. Because I do know that a moment where I think I needed to make sure I had self-awareness and accountability was just like whenever it just felt like some days I'm pushing it through and I push through, but some days I would really try to push through and I shouldn't have, right? And it was like everything in me to just even get out of bed, and I would just like be at work and it'll just be like a clear difference that I'm like going through it, but I'm like still pushing myself through it. And that energy of just being like, and like to smile in your face, but I'm literally fighting tears. I'm like, nobody really wants to see that because it's kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? But I'm like, I had to be aware that if you're about to bust out crying out here, and it's hard for you to smile, maybe you just stay home. You don't have to go to work. It doesn't mean you're a failure, and it doesn't mean you're overly sensitive. It's just that this is what your mind is going through, your body is going through. You're literally depressed. Use that PTO or speak to someone, maybe vent to someone so then I have more energy to be able to go through work. And I feel like I'm pushing a boulder within my mind to make it to work and be able to provide service to others. And that is a level of self-awareness that I know I had to be accountable to acknowledge, right? Like because in a way then it's like I'm succumbing other to that energy of like something is wrong with Zeatha, but she's not really saying anything, and I'm like literally seeing her like fighting tears to her eyes, or she's like bleh, you know. So yes, I agree.
Exactly. I just, we need to practice more self-awareness, especially as we, go into adulthood. I think we need to be more mindful of decisions that we make, positions that we sign up for, where we place our energy, what we give our attention to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's get into some examples of self-compassion. So self-compassion is not just a buzzword, it's a practice, a way of showing up for yourself when life gets heavy. And some examples include
Treating yourself like a friend. You got to speak to yourself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding you'd offer someone that you love. And I feel like
of
listen to those
course.
key words:
Yes.
friend, love, kindness, and patience. Okay.
Yes. If you are giving energy to other people, you need to give yourself double that amount of energy, because think about it, you cannot give what you do not have.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And also just forgive your mistakes. This is a big one for me, is just forgiving mistakes that I've made or misjudgments that I've had. Let go of that self-blame and allow yourself the grace to learn and to grow. No one is perfect.
Oh yeah, heavy on that. No one is perfect because I made some mistakes, y'all.
Nobody's perfect. Do you remember that song, or were you a baby? Nobody's perfect.
Wait, the one with Missy Elliott and J. Cole, or are you talking about Hannah
Oh
Montana?
my gosh, was that Missy Elliott?
Yeah, nobody's
No,
perfect.
that was
Nobody's
not Missy
perfect.
Elliott.
I swear that was.
It was definitely J. Cole, but was that Missy Elliott?
Yeah, that was Missy Elliott. We're thinking the same song. Yeah.
I have to look this up. Don't be wrong, because I was actually wrong in our last episode about the Big Sean song. So I did listen to Bounce Back off all the time, but the song that I was talking about it always gives me an idea of something spiritual that's going on, and it gave me an idea of my grandmother's passing, was Blessings. The
Oh,
song
yeah,
is
baby girl. Yeah,
Blessings.
blessing. That one.
No, where it
Oh,
was a whole group of them, of rappers. Way up I stay blessed. That song.
oh, that
That's the
song.
song.
Yeah.
Yes, Bounce Back is one of my favorites too, but Blessings is what I was actually talking about. So,
Oh, that's so funny.
so if I get off of this podcast and I find out it wasn't Missy Elliott, I'm bringing it up next time.
We shall. We have to. It's canon now. Oh my goodness. Um, Another example is also accepting all parts of yourself, right? That kind of like piggybacks of forgiving your mistakes, right? So you got to embrace
Yes.
both the light and the shadow, the aspects you're proud of and the parts that need healing, the parts that need work. I feel like, if you try to negate or fight off those other sides of yourself, you're never really gonna learn from your mistakes, or allow yourself to forgive, right? Or allow yourself to expound on, to amplify. Yeah, I just feel like you're not gonna, if you don't do it, you're suppressing it.
You absolutely are. And it's going to have a volcanic effect, right? Same thing with anger. When you keep bottling it up, bottling it up, it's going to erupt. So you have to do the same thing with self-care, intentional self-care. Connect with your body through physical touch, comforting gestures, small rituals that ground and soothe you. I know for me, my favorite ritual is a candle. I love burning a candle or buying, even just buying myself a candle, like a really, really good smelling candle. I treat myself, and it's not cheap. It's not a cheap candle. I'm a very expensive girl. Just kidding. Oh, am I back?
Yes, it was like you said, not a cheap Campbell, and you said you're a very expensive girl.
I treat myself to these candles that smell really, really good, or I
Mhm.
make them, which cost money. So either way, I am spending money on on these candles and treating myself to these candles. And that's one way that I ground myself. And it's a small ritual for me. Another one is just like um allowing myself to disconnect from the world. I'll cut off my phone. I won't turn on the TV. I won't turn on my computer. None of that. I just disconnect.
Oh, that's beautiful. Because I know for me, right? Like I like to take moments. I like to take deep breaths. That's one of the ways like I kind of like center myself. If I'm like in the middle of like a little bit of like some inner turmoil or just something just happened, I like to process like through my deep breaths, like what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what just happened. If there's a way for me to do better, or if there's a way for me to reframe it, that's like my little form of like doing the self-care with that. And also like especially when I'm like in the middle of work, because sometimes I feel like when you're spending 8 9 hours, because 1 hour lunch, right, 9 hours every day at work, there's always like an opportunity for possibly, right, like it's not every day something goes wrong, or something can go wrong and it kind of like throws my self-compassion off, and it's kind of like black or white. Like, do I choose the compassion or be toxic, be positivity, suppress, and then eventually explode? And what I've learned is I'll be the first person at work and be like, all right, time out. I'm taking a 5 minute break. And I go to that break room, close the door, and I breathe or I take a walk. And I'm like, you know what? Even
Mhm.
if the optics, if somebody want to be messy, why she walked away? I don't care if somebody think if somebody want to be messy, because I used to worry about the people who be messy, or why she had to walk away. What's wrong? What's wrong? And that makes it bigger, right? Like it makes it a bigger moment, a bigger event. People a bunch. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, Zeatha, that has nothing to do with you. If people do all of that, or people look at you when you walk in from the building, from the front, when they know you was back there, and I just be like, yep. If you guys hear my cat, my sister and my cat fighting, they're Whitney is like me. She can't read social cues, and I'm trying to teach her boundaries, and I don't think she understands. Sorry, but
You say this every single time, and every single time we didn't hear a thing.
that's crazy. Oh my goodness, they're so loud right now. But
It's okay. I'm like that too. I get paranoid about my surroundings, and now I'm just like, you know what? I got something to record. It's okay.
Look at that, self compassion. But yeah, like I let go of like trying to think of like the optics and what that looks like. Is somebody gonna think there's a problem? But it's like, no, I'm taking a break to avoid anything becoming a
Yeah.
problem, and that's an okay thing. And I come out 10 times better. Like honestly, I'd be with a higher energy, like as if nothing ever happened, because I took the time out to take care of myself.
Yeah. There was somebody who was like trying to egg me on into a fight today because I parked in front of his car as I normally would. I left
What?
space in the car, right? I left space between us because I was actually next to a fire hydrant, so I'm trying not to be too close to the fire hydrant.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Dude, can you move up a little bit?" And I'm
I'm
like,
sorry, the dude.
I'm like, you need to calm down. I'm not arguing with you. And I got back in my car. He was literally like, those people who try to provoke you into an argument.
Yep.
I said, honey, no.
Yep.
Uh-uh.
Yep. I mean, and then this is fresh, but this is like literally I just had somebody tell me, I'm not arguing with you, and then they proceeded to argue with me. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it happens too often, and it's usual. I'm not going to say it, but it's usually the same type of person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's talk
Yes.
about how self-compassion differs from toxic positivity.
Alrighty. So as Kiara just said, it differs from toxic positivity, right? And okay, so self-compassion differs from toxic positivity, and toxic positivity dismisses those real feelings and it pressures you to be okay before you actually are okay, right? So examples of those of toxic positivity, it could include like you responding or somebody responding to somebody who's grieving, and they say everything happens for a reason instead of actually acknowledging the pain. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging something that could be perceived as negative or that it's uncomfortable, right? Sometimes toxic positivity tries to mask what is uncomfortable for the sake of avoiding it.
Exactly. Exactly. And telling a teenager or just anybody who is struggling with depression to just be happier, ignoring the reality of their experience is never a go.
Never, never. And like we've probably all heard that before. I mean, when I finally realized, oh, maybe I am. I've heard that. I've heard that. And then in on the other hand, right, you can toxic positivity can look like forcing yourself to push through your emotions, right? And kind of like how I struggled with pretending everything is fine while the turmoil just simmers beneath the surface, right? And when eventually you're going to explode,
Yep.
and you can't just push through for everything, right? Pushing through should only be like a life or death situation. Now that how I reframed it now, is only if it's life or death, right? If you have to choose, and I'm talking literal life or death. I feel like that's the only time where you have to feel like you have to push through. But other than that, I feel like you should allow things to let it come out. Let the sadness come out. Cry if you need to cry. Step away if you need to cry. Take your break, because if you try to bottle it all up and it's simmering, eventually when it's all bottled up, what was simmering will explode.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And shaming others for not maintaining a positive attitude or not maintaining the illusion or the facade, implying that their feelings are wrong, inconvenient, or just, not good. It's not helpful.
Mm-hmm. Not helpful. Um, because then it kind of is like showing how like tying back into self-compassion versus toxicity, self-compassion gives you that space for your emotions, your humanity, and your healing to take place, right? And if you are trying to maintain a positive attitude or the facade, I like how you said the facade because it's all a show, right? Just for the sake of, you know, trying to say somebody's feelings are wrong or inconvenient, you're going to silence that person. It silences your feeling. And then now it's becoming a situation where it's harmful and you're disguising it as encouragement when it's not. You're stuck at a
Yeah.
standstill.
Yeah. You're brushing them off with a smile.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And I came across when researching this topic, right? I came across like this um, website by this woman named Dr. Kristen Neff. And as someone who has struggled with self compassion and finding this resource, I do recommend it. It's basically self compassion.org. And she had this page called exercise number 5, changing your critical self talk, right? And pretty much like your critical self talk in turn could use toxic positivity just to undermine what you're experiencing, what you're telling yourself, right? And she in this exercise is supposed to be done over several weeks because something like toxic positivity, it could take time to work on. So we're not saying in this episode that immediately you just have to you should just already be ready to just have all that compassion. If you're being mean to yourself and then masking it with some toxic positivity, it's going to be a little bit hard. But you need to, it shows you to identify your critical self-talk, to soften it, and then reframe the observations that you're making, what that critic is noticing, and then reframing it as if you are that compassionate person that's talking to you about what you're telling yourself, what you're telling yourself critically. um it just, self-compassion, I feel like it's like a journey, right? Like it's a journey finding that balance of being accountable for your accountable to yourself, being kind to yourself without putting a facade, without pushing yourself down, without telling yourself just be happy, or everything. Sometimes even something like everything happens for a reason. It literally could just, when you could just sit down and tell yourself, you know what, I am not happy with this. I think I want to change it in this way. And tomorrow I will be doing this to make a change. I'm taking a break for now. Instead of, already, there's plenty of people who've done it before. I got to just keep pushing. That's just, you see how like it sounds like two different things.
Yeah. 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 It is great to be optimistic, right? But while going through pain or trauma, you do not need to stay positive. You don't have to put on a mask. You don't have to be someone you are not just to make other people comfortable.
Right. Right. There was one time, and this is something that's pretty traumatic to me, and I feel like, um, kind of like it was something I had to life. I don't know how to say this, but I realized that it was harder for me to talk about one of these traumatic things, right? Um, because it felt like the people who were there with me or were watching it real time wasn't properly acknowledging what actually happened. And pretty much my story is that I twisted my ankle. My dad forced me to walk on my twisted ankle for a month. And yes, yes. And the hard part about it is
I
that
just want to let you know that that is abuse. And
it's
that's
abuse.
also medical negligence. It's not funny. It's medical negligence.
It is. And the hard part and what breaks my heart, and I don't know, it was kind of hard for me. I was like, I'm gonna be honest, Kira. I was like, oh, this is good for the topic, but I'm afraid of like people who I went to school with hearing me talk about it and then thinking like I'm blaming anybody. But I want to say this for the record, I am not. But I feel like that was a point in my life where I felt like I was experiencing during and post like heavy toxic positivity. Because imagine, yeah, you told your daughter you didn't want them playing a sport, and then they hurt themselves, and then you force them to walk on that injured part of their body.
And that is abuse.
I had to walk on. So now my it always feels like my foot is never the same. And yes,
Oh
whenever
yeah,
you
that's
injure
going
your
to do
body,
damage.
it is.
Yeah.
But the injury, Kiara, it wasn't that bad. If I had just rested on it and I just had a crutch and I let it, my foot just breathe, I believe it with my heart, and my intuition tells me this, right? And of course, I didn't have a doctor to tell me this, but I believe with my heart that I wouldn't have as much problems as I do today. But it was kind of like I had to deal with so many like situations where it's like, well, your dad told you not to play the sport, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. I twisted my ankle, Kiara, and I knew it wasn't bad because when I twisted it, I wasn't in pain. I twisted it and I knew something was wrong, and I told my coach that I can't walk on it because I knew it wasn't natural the way I twisted, like the way my foot went, right? It slipped.
Absolutely.
I had flat feet. I was wearing Nike, the Nike platform shoes. Those type of shoes don't work on my feet, right? I didn't know because Nobody's sitting here educating me about flat feet. I had to find that out years later, right? So my foot slipped, and instead of stepping on my foot how you're supposed to, I stepped on the ground with my ankle. I wasn't in immediate pain. I just knew that was not supposed to happen. And when I tried to walk on it, I couldn't walk. So, right, when I called my dad, he was upset, like he berated me and and I couldn't walk on the foot. My foot was swollen, and I had to spend a whole month limping everywhere. And it was kind of like either it was nobody wanted to speak of the unspoken, or it was a dynamic that I would hear from people. Um, well, you shouldn't have been, well, like your dad said, you shouldn't have done the sport then. Or something along the lines of that, or something along the lines of, well, it's not like you can expect your feet to be normal at exactly how I used to. And I'm like thinking, if I wasn't walking on it for a whole month, it would be fine, because I wouldn't be straining the muscle. Your body is meant to heal. Your body, if it goes through some trauma, if you don't keep on pushing the limit, it can heal, and it can heal to a point of almost 100% normalcy. And I know myself, right? Like I had a whole infection in my bone, and they told me in 9 months, it's you can tell that there was trauma, but it's healing, right? Like, and in 4 years, they said it'll be healed almost to 100% normal. I had a muscle that my dad made me walk on for a whole month, and I had to deal with so many moments of toxic positivity around that. And I will just say, right, if anybody had to do with something similar or is going through something similar, right, because I don't know how many Haitian fathers treat their daughters like this, or any father or any parent of that matter, right? But that was not okay. That was not right. If I wanted to do a sport, if you wanted to do something right and it wasn't harmful and it was a genuine interest of yours, that was a healthy interest, and you somehow got hurt through it in the process, it doesn't mean you should be blamed for it. And no. And I literally, it was like, there was so many moments where just even around that, it was kind of like I was being told to be positive or change my outlook on it, when I just wanted somebody to acknowledge that it wasn't right. It wasn't right. My dad shouldn't have done that. And my parents only started to help me out with it when people at church started asking them at a funeral why I couldn't walk properly. That's the only time. And that's a shame. And I think at that point in my life, I think I needed more people to say that was a shame. What is going on? Why are you still limping? Instead of making it seem like I was sitting there to complain, or that I should have listened to my dad.
Yeah, they only listened when their reputation was at risk.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
And that is a problem. That is a problem.
I appreciate you for being brave and sharing your experience, and know it was not right, and know you should not have had to be punished for trying something that you were passionate about, you know?
Right. And I was just trying to find out if I liked tennis, because I thought tennis was pretty cool. Like, I'm not good at it at all, and I haven't played tennis in a minute, but I just wanted to try it because I felt like you're in high school and you're meant to try new things.
Exactly. And that's what school is for.
Mm-hmm.
So we are now at the end of this episode on self-compassion versus toxic positivity.
So all in all, right, we defined what self-compassion and toxic positivity are. We shared how harmful toxic positivity can be and provided examples throughout this podcast. Pretty much what you can take from this conversation is that self-compassion empowers you, while toxic positivity suppresses you. And in the midst of our highs, our lows, our pain, trauma, and our good moments, we need to allow ourselves to be human, to acknowledge the things that may be uncomfortable, not succumbing to it, but just acknowledging it, and then allowing ourselves to grow. Because without it, you're either stuck in that toxic positivity stage where you're suppressing everything and eventually you will explode, or you make others feel that way, and you're not going to be nourishing the community, the growth, and the self-empowerment that we need within all of us.
Absolutely. And if you felt this conversation, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, share it with a friend, and join us on this healing journey.
And next time, we're diving into a conversation about when, quote unquote, doing the work gets heavy.
Yes, because healing is not easy, and I am excited about that episode as well. So don't forget to visit us at www.groundedstars.com. That sounded like way too many W's, but to book a class today, or book a session, or to join the Google Classroom.
And as always, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys just being here with us in this journey with the Chiron Intensive. And with that, we shall see you again soon.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.